The year was 1299 AD, a time when the world was fractured. Kingdoms were rising and falling like the tides, and the lands of Anatolia were caught between ancient empires and new ambitions. In this turbulent age, a young Turkish chieftain named Osman, son of Ertuğrul, would experience a dream so powerful that it would echo across the next 6 centuries. In his vision, a mighty tree sprouted from within him, its roots spreading across the earth, its branches stretching toward the heavens, its shadow covering continents. It was not just a dream, it was a prophecy, a whisper from destiny itself. That dream would become the Ottoman Empire, the greatest Middle Eastern power of its era, and one of the longest-lasting empires in human history. The name Ottoman itself comes from Uthman, the Arabic form of Osman, honoring the man who ignited a legacy that would reshape Europe, Asia, and the Islamic world. What began as a small frontier principality on the edge of a dying Byzantine empire would, in time, rise into a force that would dominate 3 continents. But the journey to greatness began in the most modest way possible. Osman I gathered the Turkish tribes of Anatolia, warriors shaped by hardship, faith, migration, and survival. They had no grand palaces, no vast armies, and no accumulated wealth. What they possessed was hunger, a hunger for land, for unity, for glory. Osman forged this restless energy into purpose. He established a formal government, giving structure to the people who would later be known as the Ottoman Turks. His son Orhan joined him, equally ambitious, equally determined. Together they pushed northwestward, striking deeper into Byzantine territory. In 1326, their forces captured Bursa, a historic moment that marked the turning point in their rise. Bursa became the first true capital of the Ottoman state, a vibrant city that symbolized both conquest and new beginnings. With Bursa gone, Byzantium lost its grip on northwestern Anatolia forever. But this was only the beginning. The Ottomans expanded with relentless precision. Their warriors, disciplined, fearless, and guided by the Ghazi tradition of holy struggle, advanced toward strategic strongholds. In 1387, they seized Thessaloniki from the Venetians, establishing a powerful foothold in the Balkans. 2 years later, in 1389, their victory in Kosovo crushed Serbian dominance in the region and cleared the path for further European expansion. Christian powers across Europe realized the danger too late. In 1396, a coalition of crusaders gathered for what would become the last great crusade of the Middle Ages, the Battle of Nicopolis. But even this united force could not break the Ottoman advance. The crusade collapsed under the fierce might of Ottoman warriors. At the center of this growing empire stood Sultan Bayezid I, known as Yildirim, the Thunderbolt. His speed, aggression, and brilliance doubled the size of Ottoman territory between 1389 and 1402. He seemed unstoppable. The very idea of Ottoman decline seemed impossible. But empires do not rise without meeting rivals. In the east, a powerful conqueror, Timur, known to Europeans as Tamerlane, was expanding his own empire with equal ferocity. The collision was inevitable. At the Battle of Ankara, Bayezid suffered a devastating defeat. He was captured. His empire fractured. What followed was the only civil war in Ottoman history, the Ottoman interregnum, where Bayezid's sons fought ruthlessly for the throne. From the ashes of this chaos, one leader emerged to restore order, Mehmed IV. He reunited the broken territories and restored the legitimacy of the Ottoman state. Peace returned, but the cost had been immense. Yet empires born from fire often return stronger. Between 1430 and 1450, Murad II, son of Mehmed I, revitalized Ottoman power. He reclaimed lands lost in the turmoil after Ankara. He crushed a united European army at the Battle of Varna, ending their last major attempt to halt Ottoman expansion. He triumphed again at the Second Battle of Kosovo in 1448, confirming Ottoman supremacy in southeastern Europe. But the most transformative chapter was still to come. Murad's young son, Mehmed II, known to the world as Mehmed the Conqueror, would face the empire's greatest challenge, the ancient city of Constantinople, a city that had stood unconquered for over 1,000 years. Byzantine, Christian, fortified like no city on earth, it was the barrier that separated the Ottomans from absolute dominance. And in 1453, at only 21 years old, Mehmed captured it. The fall of Constantinople was not merely a military triumph, it was a civilizational shift. Mehmed renamed the city Istanbul and transformed it into the capital of a rising empire. Trade, culture, art, and architecture flourished, and the Ottoman state stepped firmly into the role of a great power. Mehmed the Conqueror ruled until 1481, laying the foundations of a dynasty that would dominate the Old World. After his death, his son Bayezid II ascended the throne, inheriting a realm ready to rise even higher. What began with a dream in 1299 had become a superpower by the mid-15th century. The empire was ready for its golden age. The conquest of Constantinople in 1453 did not merely change a city, it altered the entire axis of world history. With its ancient walls shattered and its throne claimed by a 21-year-old conqueror, the Ottoman Empire emerged as the uncontested power of southeastern Europe and the eastern Mediterranean. The Orthodox Patriarchate, long under the shadow of Venetian control, now recognized the authority of the Ottoman sultans, marking a profound shift in spiritual, political, and cultural influence across the region. This was the dawn of the empire's true ascent. Through the 15th and 16th centuries, the Ottoman Empire expanded with astonishing speed, discipline, and strategic brilliance. It became a force that every kingdom, whether in Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa, watched with a mix of fear and admiration. Its armies were unmatched. Its navy controlled vital waterways, its administrative systems blended strict order with cultural tolerance, and its economy thrived through the greatest trade routes of the medieval world. By the early 1500s, the empire stood at the threshold of a new era, the age of global dominance. Under Sultan Selim I, the Ottomans turned their attention toward the heart of the Islamic world. In a breathtaking series of campaigns between 1516 and 1517, Selim achieved what no other Anatolian power had done before. He conquered Syria, Palestine, Arabia, and Egypt, lands rich in history, commerce, and spiritual significance. With these victories, the Ottomans did not just gain territory, they gained guardianship over Mecca and Medina, the holiest cities of Islam. They gained access to the Red Sea and control over the caravan routes that connected continents. They gained leverage over the ancient wealth of the Nile and the vibrant markets of Damascus and Cairo. For the first time, the Ottoman Empire stretched from the gates of Vienna to the deserts of Arabia, from the Black Sea to the heart of Africa. No merchant could travel east or west without touching Ottoman lands. No ship could safely cross the Mediterranean without acknowledging Ottoman naval power. The empire became the beating heart of the Old World, the crossroads where Europe, Asia, and Africa converged. Its navy expanded rapidly, becoming one of the most formidable maritime forces of the period. Ottoman fleets clashed with Venetian galleys across the Aegean Sea, challenged Genoese merchants in the Black Sea, and confronted Portuguese ships in the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea. Trade routes, once dominated by Italian city-states, were now contested by the rising power of Istanbul. Wherever there was profit, power, or influence to be gained, the Ottoman crescent appeared. Yet the empire's true golden age arrived under the rule of one man, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, who reigned from 1520 to 1566. He was not only a warrior and a ruler, he was a visionary. Suleiman inherited an empire of strength, but he transformed it into an empire of greatness. He created a legal system so balanced, so comprehensive, and so ahead of its time that he earned the title Kanuni, the lawgiver. His reforms made justice accessible, taxation fair, and governance stable across 3 continents. He welcomed scholars, poets, architects, and artists from all corners of the world, turning Istanbul into a melting pot of Islamic, Persian, Arab, Balkan, and European traditions. Under his patronage, literature flourished. Calligraphers created masterpieces. Architects designed structures that still stand today as symbols of timeless beauty. But Suleiman was not only a builder of culture, he was a conqueror of empires. He launched 13 major campaigns, each stretching the boundaries of Ottoman influence. In 1526, he crushed the Hungarians at the Battle of Mohacs, a moment that altered the fate of Central Europe. He absorbed vast territories into the Ottoman realm and stood at the doorstep of Vienna, the gateway to Western Europe. In the east, he seized Baghdad from the Persians, securing control over Mesopotamia, the cradle of ancient civilizations. His forces established a naval presence in the Persian Gulf, shaping maritime power in Asia. Under Suleiman's leadership, the empire grew to encompass roughly 15 million people, becoming one of the most diverse societies in the world. Christians, Muslims, and Jews lived under its banner, each protected by systems of tolerance that allowed them to practice their faith while contributing to the empire's prosperity. By the mid-16th century, the Ottoman Empire was not simply powerful, it was magnificent. Its borders stretched across continents. Its architecture symbolized grandeur. Its armies were feared everywhere, and its rulers commanded unparalleled respect. This was the empire's peak, a moment when it stood as the great superpower of the Old World. But history moves in cycles, and no empire, no matter how mighty, remains unchallenged forever. Far to the west, new powers were emerging. Far to the east, old rivals were regaining strength. And within the empire itself, storms were beginning to gather, storms that would one day bring the Ottomans to their knees. The Golden Age would soon give way to shadows. Every empire, no matter how vast or glorious, eventually confronts the weight of time. For the Ottomans, the shadows began to lengthen around the early 1600s. The empire was still powerful, still respected, still feared. But internal cracks had begun to spread beneath the marble surface. The vast lands that once symbolized strength now demanded resources, armies, and constant attention. And as the Ottomans stretched from Central Europe to the Arabian Peninsula, they found themselves fighting battles on too many fronts at once. Austrian forces pressed from the west. Persian armies attacked from the east. Rebellions erupted within the empire's borders. The Ottoman military, once the most formidable in the world, found itself scattered across impossible distances. Maintaining defenses became overwhelming. Supplying troops across deserts, mountains, and seas became a logistical nightmare. And with each passing year, the empire's naval presence weakened against newer, more modern European fleets. Trade routes that once enriched the empire now slipped away to rising Atlantic powers like Portugal, Spain, and later England. The empire was still vast, but it was no longer invincible. By the early 1900s, global politics had changed drastically. New nations had emerged, old alliances had broken, and Europe had become a battlefield of shifting ambitions. The Ottoman Empire, once the terror of Europe, was now being called the sick man of Europe, a phrase that stung deeply, yet reflected a cruel truth. Administrative corruption spread, military reforms struggled to keep pace with modern warfare, and the empire's diverse populations, Arabs, Greeks, Armenians, Slavs, Kurds, and many more, began seeking independence. Then came the wars that changed everything. Between 1912 and 1913, the Balkan Wars unleashed devastation. The Ottoman Empire lost almost all its European territories, lands that had been part of its identity for centuries. The fall was sudden, shocking, and irreversible. In a matter of months, regions that had once flourished under Ottoman rule slipped away forever. For the first time in centuries, the empire was pushed almost entirely out of Europe. But the greatest blow was yet to come. In 1914, the Ottoman Empire entered World War I on the side of the Central Powers. It was a desperate gamble, a belief that aligning with Germany and Austria-Hungary might restore Ottoman power. Instead, it brought catastrophe. After years of brutal fighting, economic collapse, and overwhelming military losses, the Ottomans were defeated in October 1918. Their empire shattered, their capital surrounded, their future uncertain. The title of Sultan, once carried by emperors who ruled 3 continents, was abolished in 1922. The dynasty that had lasted more than 600 years came to a quiet, solemn end, and the vast empire that had once stretched from Budapest to Baghdad was reduced to a fraction of its former size. But history was not finished with these lands. From the ruins of the empire rose a new leader, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, a visionary who refused to let the region be carved up by foreign powers. Through determination, military brilliance, and unwavering resolve, he led the Turkish War of Independence. On October 29, 1923, the remaining heartland of the empire became the Republic of Turkey. The Ottoman Empire was gone, But its legacy had only begun. Across the territories it once ruled, Turkey, Greece, the Balkans, the Middle East, and North Africa, the imprint of the Ottomans is still unmistakable. Their architectural marvels rise above city skylines. Their legal reforms echo in modern governance. Their religious and cultural tolerance allowed communities to coexist peacefully for centuries. Their military systems shaped global warfare. Their art, poetry, calligraphy, and music still inspire the world. For more than 6 centuries, the Ottomans ruled not with the chaos of conquest, but with the structure of administration, the sophistication of culture, and the discipline of law. They built cities, preserved traditions, and connected continents in ways that still define our world today. At their height, they were the pulse of civilization, an empire that blended East and West, faith and empire, sword and scripture. And though the empire fell, the memory of its glory continues to echo through time. A dream born in 1299, a rise that shook continents, a golden age that reshaped the world, and a legacy that endures in every stone, every story, and every nation touched by its shadow. The Ottoman Empire may no longer stand, but its spirit lives on in history's eternal hall of greatness.